Hi, my name is Greg Canty, and I'd like to welcome you to the Win Happy podcast. I love chatting to people from all walks of life about their lives and their careers, about the choices they make along the way to pursue their happiness, and what winning actually means to them. I hope you enjoy these conversations as much as I do. Thanks for listening. On today's podcast, I had the absolute pleasure of the company of Fiona Burke, the founder and owner of Little Red Skincare. A simple conversation about her very special business opened up into a number of areas I wasn't at all expecting. She chatted about her early life as the daughter of the local policeman in Ennis, being bullied out of her job as an engineer by someone who felt that wasn't the place for a woman, and this then leading to an unplanned life of a successful entrepreneur selling cheese at various markets around Cork. The cheese business evolved into Little Red Skincare, an organically certified business that can be purchased online in various stockists, or even better, in person from Fiona at Bantry, Skibbereen and Schull markets. She also chatted about some big personal changes that she has made recently and how she has cracked the code of this thing that we call life. Let's hear from Fiona. Fiona Burke.
Hello, Greg.
A huge welcome to the Win Happy podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me over to your beautiful spot of the world.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for making the trip over the hill.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure on this gorgeous summer evening.
Well, I must say well done to you, because it's so easy to say no and I'm not sure about that. But, I just bumped into you at the lovely market in Schull, as it is on beautiful Sunday mornings, and this beautiful woman is sitting at the Little Red Skincare stand, and there's just, maybe it was because the weather was really nice, I'm not sure, but you're so happy and there's such a lovely aura from you. And I know we stopped there and Dee bought a few bits and bobs and all that kind of thing, but I remember thinking you were so happy. And I remember walking back to the car and driving back, and I was thinking, she's really lovely, and I'd love to find out her story or whatever. So I did a Mr. Google, and I emailed you. And without too much of a bother, you were like, yeah, of course, I'm in, let's do it. And that's kind of an attitude, and that's kind of a choice and an approach to things. And is that how you are?
Is that how I roll? I guess. I mean, part of me was deliberating and going, oh no, this really isn't for me, it's not my bag, am I good enough, or am I worthy of joining, being on somebody's podcast? And then I spoke to a friend of mine and she said, look, any publicity is good publicity.
Oh,
but not just
that.
Not just that. I mean, I did a bit of research, and I really like the ethos of your podcast, and I felt honoured to be asked. So here I am.
Yeah. Well done for saying yes, and I love that spirit. But I suspected that spirit was there to begin with anyway. Judging from the lovely person that we met, selling your wares on a sunny Sunday morning in Schull.
Oh,
and they're not always sunny, are they?
They're not always sunny, but they're more often than not, they're good Sunday mornings in Schull. Yeah, it's a lovely market to be part of, and it's just down the road, and it's I have a nice little perch for myself, and I love what I do. So yeah, even if it is a windy, wet one, you still I still find joy in it a lot of the time, Yeah, some Sundays are harder than others, but that's life, isn't it? No matter what you're doing. And on those Sunday mornings, what time does your day start, and what time do all the other traders rock up and do their setup and all that kind of thing? So I aim to be there for 8 o'clock. I tend to get up around 7, and I live only 10 minutes drive away now. I used to live about an hour and 10 minutes drive on a Sunday morning, but it would take me maybe an hour and a half to get home, then back to the other side of Macroom. So yeah, from about 8 o'clock on, the traders start rocking up. I mean, Sunday mornings tend to be a slower start than other days of the week. Maybe particularly in Schull, because it's got that holiday vibe. and it's a nice short market. You know, the market ends at 2, but like I say, it does have that lovely holiday vibe. So a lot of the time, you feel like you're on holidays. You know, with your customers, with the crowds. Obviously, you have to make some sales as well if that's your livelihood. But yeah, no, it's a very pleasant market. I love doing Schull Market. It's nice when Easter rolls around. That's usually the first Sunday of Schull Market of the season, and we finish up then at the end of September. To be honest, by the time the end of September rolls around and the evenings are closing in and the weather gets chillier, we're ready to claim our Sundays back, you know, and get back to our lovely roast dinners and fireside hot chocolate and that kind of thing. But for the season, I've always liked doing Schull Market. Yeah.
I always get a feeling about it when you're there. It's a product in itself. The feeling you get, you know, just when you approach it. Now, it's not like there's 300 stalls or anything. It's really, really tiny. You just walk it in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But there's such a gorgeous feeling and sentiment about the whole thing. And maybe it is the holiday feeling. Okay, we've got a little dog go through. You all right there, Bert?
Oh.
Yeah, and you get that lovely feeling when you're there. I often find if you could bottle that feeling, my God Almighty, because it's just like, oh my God, this is just so lovely. I find when you go there, you feel that you just have to purchase then and bring part of it home with you. You know, whether that's a bun or some little red skincare products or whatever. It's so special. That's become a really nice routine for us.
Oh, I guess that could be down to the fact that most of us produce our wares, or at least one of the stipulations of being a trader there is that we must produce 80%, at least 80% of what we sell ourselves. So there's an element of, you know, pride or shyness or whatever it is about what we sell, because most of us, or we all make most of what we sell. So that's the difference between it and most other markets that I know of.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that criteria, and that makes an awful lot of sense now, because you do get that sense of pride from everyone that you talk to, which is really lovely. So, the question I ask everyone is, who the hell are you and where did you come from?
Who the hell am I? So, I'm Fiona Burke. I was born in Ennis, County Clare, and I slowly meandered my way away from Ennis, County Clare. I studied in Dublin. I went to UCD. I spent a stint between school and college in Germany. So I took a year out because I wasn't sure what I wanted to study, and then came back and got a degree in engineering. And then I decided to move to Cork.
Good choice.
Yes, great choice. So I did, and I got a job in Cork City. And from there, I soon realised that engineering wasn't for me. When I look back, I realised that I was very fortunate in that my boss wasn't really happy with women in the engineering office, which sped up my exodus from the job. But I'm really, really grateful for it, because it led me to the market life. So I ended up setting up a cheesemongering business at farmers markets. So I set up my own cheese stall. I started selling the Irish farmhouse cheeses, and then importing some artisan European cheeses. And that stall was operational for 24 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's only in the last 11 years ago. So still, when we had the cheese stall, I started making skincare just in my kitchen and selling a few bits and pieces from the cheese stall, and realising that maybe I could make a go of that. Because it is different when you make what you sell yourself. I loved selling cheese. I love food in general. And I love the market way of life, albeit hard at times. Yeah. You know, it's not all a bed of roses. You know, it often, I think sometimes people think you can rock up and do it as a hobby, as an add-on to your 9 to 5 or whatever other job you have. It's you have to sort of do it to know that it is bloody hard work a lot of the time, but very rewarding as well. So I started making Little Red skincare and then got it branded, and then I started rocking up to markets separate from the cheese. And here I am. The cheese stall has since deceased, if you like, but I'm still powering on with Little Red, and very happily. So does that answer your question? Sorry.
Oh, I'm only getting into it. What did your mum and dad do?
So Mum was a secretary before she met Dad, and it was back in the day where she couldn't keep on a job in the civil service when she got married. Dad was a guard. They're both still alive, hale and hearty. Thank God. They're coming down in a few days' time to visit, actually. So they had 6 children, so Mum became chief minder and carer of us. And in later years then, we lived in a smaller house in town, and then Dad built a bigger house a couple of miles outside Ennis on the Hinch Road. And then my younger sister was born. But the idea of the bigger house, I think, well, not just for the family, but also to set up a bed and breakfast to help fund us through college and help funding in general. So they're both retired now, but they still live in that house. And still love going there. I don't get up there as often as I used to when I lived near Macroom, just between the jigs and the reels with my children here and me working weekends and whatnot. But they're still there, it's still there. And it's always lovely to gather with family whenever we can all get back together.
Your dad being a guard, that must be an unusual thing. Fairly sure, actually. I think you're the first person that I've ever met whose father or mother is a guard. Like another question I ask people is, what were the conversations around the kitchen table? And I'm sure as a guard, you're in the thick of everything, good, bad and indifferent in the local town. I'm sure there were interesting chats around the kitchen table. Or would your dad have just left all that aside? And would you have been aware that, okay, my dad is the guard in the town,
Yeah, very much so. And Dad was quite strict with us growing up. He didn't share much from his day job. Even with my own mother, like I met a cousin a couple of years ago at a market with his wife, and they told me that they met my dad was working in the courthouse on the day that they went to get married, but they wanted to keep it a secret. And Dad didn't even tell my own mother, so that's how private, that's how good he was at keeping his job separate from us. But no, I suppose he had to be seen to be strict. And there were, we had to be seen to be good kids, which we weren't always. And one time somebody approached my dad, confronted him, and one of us was seen drinking in Ennis town, and this man told my father that if he couldn't keep the law in his own home, that he better not try keeping it on the street. That was a real...
It's the pressure, isn't it?
Yeah. No, Dad was really, really good at his job, from what I gather. I mean, even his retirement party was great crack. Like, it was gate crashed by loads of people.
Yeah.
He was only 57 when he retired because he had done his 35 years service.
Jeepers, that's young, isn't it?
Yeah, so young. But it was great fun, and lots of people paid homage to him. And there were great stories, about him even stopping one of the neighbours for speeding. And he was like, what were you thinking of at all there? Let's call him Jim. God, you were flying it. You were doing 50 there in a 30 zone or whatever. And Jim says, I'm like, I was just thinking of getting home to my dinner. I'm starving. And he probably still gave him a ticket, you know. Yeah. So I think he was really good at his job. But both Mum and Dad worked so hard at their respective jobs. And I think they also did a really good job of instilling that ethos into us. I think we all know the value of good hard work and the rewards of good hard work, an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, and all of that.
Yeah.
So they've passed a lot on to us as a lucky family group.
And as a kid in school, when the teacher, for whatever reason, has totally and utterly lost your attention and you're doing a bit of daydreaming, what do you daydream about?
As a kid, I did think about coming at Bangarda, but I didn't. I used to want to be a shopkeeper for some strange reason. And I suppose I have spent the last 25 years or so being a shopkeeper of sorts, you know. And I really like it. So that was one thing. I'm a fierce dreamer. I'm a Piscean, so
me too.
Really, there you go.
Which date?
The 6th of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm right smack bang.
Yeah.
Okay.
And D is Piscean as well.
Go away. Yeah. And there we all end up living by the sea.
Well, we're all dreamers, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've met a lot more Pisceans living down here since I moved to the Mizen Peninsula. I had ever before.
There must be a thing about it.
Yeah, I think so. A much higher concentration of us. Dreamy fishies.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's answered your question about the...
No, because, so you were thinking about being a shopkeeper. That's interesting. My little granddaughter, Hazel, there is something about shops. Like, she's 3.5 now. But even when she's 2, coming over to the house and you can just take a bunch of things out of the cupboard and put them on a little chair. And of course, she's very clever. She uses the phone as a scanner. And I think there's a piggy bank somewhere with coins in it.
Wow, the till.
Yeah, and how much is that, please? And that'll be 2. And she's giving you the change. Thank you very much. And of course, you know, when she's picking out the different items that she has to have in her shop, one of them has to be a little chocolate bar, which is consumed immediately. I think that's half the reason why she wants to play the shop game with Grandad, which is lovely.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, the little snack biscuits. I sent my son, so I kind of buy them deliberately now, so we have them there. And of course, they're like, don't let her be eating chocolate, of course not. And I always tell her that's our little secret.
Oh.
And she tells them the second she goes down, you know. Oh. Yeah, I have a secret. with Grandad. But that's allowed as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's imperative.
Yeah. So what nudged you towards engineering?
I simply couldn't decide what I wanted to do in college. I mean, I had dreams about studying psychology. I was good at languages. And then when I took the year out in Germany, between school and college, I befriended a bunch of engineers, and one of them said that if I was, I could always keep up languages in my spare time, whatever, but advised me that if I was good at kind of maths and the sciences, that the likes of engineering was a very good degree to have, and flexible and versatile. And on the strength of that, I changed the CAO form, and I remember my mother having concerns about it because I was never interested in, workings of certain, machinery and stuff like that. But there's a lot more to engineering than that, obviously, of course. Yeah, I went and I got into UCD and ended up specialising in mechanical engineering. And parts of it I found really, really interesting, like engineering materials, and I loved the experiments, and I was really good at report writing, stuff like that. So there were elements that I really enjoyed. Now, I did struggle in the last 2 years, maybe with certain blocks of subjects, but there are several different ways you can apply a degree in engineering. Investment bankers used to come and try and recruit us in 4th year, so they'd lay on a pile of free drink, and well, that was it, pile of free drink for us. And we'd go and take advantage. But
investment bankers, like, what's that connection? Is it just that, your minds work in a particular way that...
Yeah, basically the training, that an engineering degree gives you seems to be compatible with investment banking, for one thing, So anyway, I got a job in Cork with an aeronautical overhaul company, and I was a process engineer with them. So I was following through experiments and getting approvals from the Federal Aviation Authority and stuff, and writing up reports. And so I did enjoy it to a certain extent, but then I ran into problems, say, with a certain male in the office who wasn't very happy about women being in the engineering department. But
what year would that have been?
What year was that? Was it what? It was 98. Yeah, 1998, May of 1998 when I started. So first of all, I was on 6 months trial, and then I stayed going. But I got more and more miserable in the job, basically. I got on great with the lads that I worked with, and also the guys on the floor that I also worked with, and that helped me with the trials, follow them through the furnaces and whatnot. But I was getting a lot quieter in my private life. I was in my dressing gown at 7:30 in the evening and just not myself. I found myself not being able to eat when I got up in the morning and just being extremely anxious. And I thought something had to give. And I had a sort of a mini breakdown of sorts, if you like. Now, at this point, I had befriended a lovely bunch of people who were market traders and artists in Cork, and I used to go to art openings with them, and I started working the odd Saturday in the English market just for the hell of it, really, because I liked it. So yeah, this particular weekend anyway, that I ended up on my own in the flat and just fell to pieces, basically. I had a light bulb moment, and a friend of mine back in Clare was selling, she had started a market stall, a cheese market stall, and I thought, wow, maybe that's something I could do. And I just spoke to other market friends down in Cork and asked their advice. And the year 2000 then, that was around the end of 1999. So I gave in my notice just before Christmas. So I was able to start the year 2000 working in the English market. I'd secured some work on a couple of stalls there. And the Middleton market was starting up that June. So I put my name down for it, and then so I started doing that. I started doing the market in Bantry, Tralee as well, I think. And from there, I went between different markets over the years. I would occasionally then bump into ex-colleagues in the city, and I remember a couple of them saying, well, one in particular said, wow, Fiona, you're standing tall again. You've cut all your hair off. You're back to yourself, And I remember when I was going around telling the guys that I was finishing up in the engineering business, that one of them said, oh, thanks be to God for that. I was like, sorry? He said, no, Fiona, I thought you were terminally ill or something, the way you've been, carrying yourself and that recently. And he said he was just relieved to hear that I was leaving because he knew I wasn't happy.
And he was saying that from the point of view of that being good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that he was happy for me because he knew I wasn't happy. And other people could see the way there were certain biases going on. And
yeah. It's kind of a weird thing. Yeah. Like in a situation like that, in a work situation, when you're not comfortable because of whatever's going on, you really stop being yourself, don't you? That was really observant of your colleague. For some reason, he was looking at you and thinking, this isn't Fiona, this isn't how she should be. How long were you there?
Oh, only 18 months in total.
Yeah, but yet, in a career, and that was at a very early stage.
Yeah.
You can see how defining it is, isn't it? It's like...
Oh, I thank my lucky stars. I mean, had that person not been superior to me, I might have stayed on and been miserable in my job, but not quite as miserable as getting sick from it, if you know what I mean. For a long time, people would also have said to me, God, you're so brave for, going off and starting up a market stall. And I said, well, what have I got to lose? And what's the price of happiness?
Yeah.
you know. Actually, my mother asked me what my salary would be upon leaving engineering. And I said, I haven't a clue, but like, there's no price.
It just didn't matter.
It didn't matter. No, it was soul destroying. It was killing me staying on what I was doing. So I've never looked back.
Yeah.
Yay!
Well done, though. And for me, you know, and I think we were chatting about this earlier, part of that win happy ethos is all about that. And a lot of people are living lives where they're in jobs where they're not happy for whatever reason. Maybe it's something that doesn't suit them, or maybe it's how they're being treated, or, you know, the length of time they're working, or just lack of satisfaction in the role or whatever. And we really get one shot at this thing called life.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are being really well paid in these roles.
Yeah.
But you're writing the biggest check of all with your time.
Yeah.
And you need to just get the hell out of there if that's not working for you. So connect with what you're saying that it didn't matter. You just had to get out of there.
Totally.
You know, just like, I'm out of here. Yeah, for your own bloody survival and everything else.
Yeah, for your health and well-being and mental health. And I must say that, you know, I didn't have a mortgage at the time. I didn't have young children. I didn't have any children. You know, I had no dependents. So it was that bit easier for me. It is a lot harder, you know, when you have dependents and a mortgage and that. But there is still, that doesn't mean you can't ever change either, you know, and it's about taking that leap of faith, which is probably never easy, but change is never easy, but it can be oh so rewarding.
So that was more or less, I just need to do something else. And did it even feel like a risk? I suppose that there was no huge down payments or anything. It was just about buying a bit of stock and rocking up at a market and paying the market fee or whatever, however it works. Yeah,
I had a lot of help and advice from friends, and it just flowed, and I got my experience in the English market, and like I say, I love food, I love dealing with food, and I guess I like dealing with customers in general. And also, I remember when I was in the engineering job, I used to look out the window and think, I actually said out loud, I would love to be outside. And I'm not always outside with the job I have, but I am a lot of the time. And I like that aspect of my job.
But you're out and about, and you can go where you want. And if you don't want to do the market tomorrow, you don't have to do it tomorrow. It's all about you.
Yeah.
I suppose too, we need to be careful because we're not putting down people who, you know, are locked into those 9 to 5 type jobs. And the one thing I find about being self-employed is you have this notion that you can take holidays whenever you want and all that kind of thing. And the truth is you probably take less than everyone else. In my case, anyway, I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I find that. And that's okay too. I mean, then I can have, you know, easy days when I need them. And those easy days are, I think they're very necessary as well, you know, to keep the creative juices flowing, or just to get distance from the busyness sometimes. You know, when you get overly busy and you just need to stand back to be able to see the wood for the trees. So I probably don't take that many holidays at all, you know, over the course of the year, but I'm okay with that. You know, like I say, when it's, you know, sunny and beautiful down here as it often is, I might just take off to the beach for a couple of hours and then get back to work and work harder as a result, you know, maybe to make up for it. Yeah. So
your first market day, was that in Middleton?
Yes.
Yeah. How did you feel that day? Do you remember that day?
Oh, actually, no, sorry. It was the day before. I did Tralee Market the day before. And I had a couple of friends who were regulars there. So they were kind of showing me the ropes, which was lovely. One of them now lives down in Ballydehob, actually. I'm still great friends with him. How did I feel that day? Nervous. I was nervous. Yeah, nervous as hell. But yeah, I did it, and it was rewarding to be going home with a few bob in my pocket. And then the next day was Middleton, and that was the first day of Middleton Farmers Market, so there was maybe just a handful of stalls, you know. Of course, Dorina was there and a bunch of us, and but it grew and it grew, and then sure, it was the Celtic Tiger years, and you couldn't be selling enough, really. I would have gone through different phases of, doing more markets in Kerry, or, I traded in Ennis for a few years in my hometown. At one point I had 3 vans on the road, but that was too much, and it was... But yeah, it was a
proper business at that stage with lots of employees and that kind of thing, or some anyway.
Yeah, some employees, but our kids were small, and it was taking its toll on the family. And then my sister-in-law passed away at a very young age. She was only 39, and she had cancer, and that threw a different perspective on life altogether, And we were very stretched with 3 small kids, and just trying to keep the 3 vans on the road. And so, yeah, that was the main reason, actually, why we downsized again and made life simpler, and just made a bit more wiggle room for ourselves.
Did the Celtic Tiger hammer the markets, or the crash that came?
It did a bit. I mean, I do remember my accountant saying that people would still want to treat themselves to fine food, so they might not be eating out as much, but they would still buy, artisan luxury foods, especially on the weekends. And to a large extent, that was true. So maybe it wasn't so much the crash after the Celtic Tiger, but I think also the supermarkets cottoned on to a lot of the lovely foods that we were selling, and started selling them as well, I mean, I only learned what, for example, Comté cheese was by being a cheesemonger, and you couldn't get that in, the mainstream supermarkets 25 odd years ago, or in Ireland anyway, maybe in Dublin, but not in the towns that I would frequent. And nowadays, you can get Manchego or whatever, lots of the Irish artisan cheeses pretty much everywhere. But markets still have their charm, I think regular market goers will still go out of their way to purchase from stalls at a market because of that personal touch, and because in most cases you're meeting the maker, or in a lot of cases anyway, and it's a very different way of shopping. Yeah, it's such a social outing. It's not just a shopping experience. It's such a social... It's part of the fabric of a place, the town, of West Cork. We're blessed to have such strong markets.
Oh, we're so blessed. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And during COVID times, for example, I remember I was still allowed to sell my skincare because it was deemed an essential item, or, along with foods and that. And I remember, certain people coming along just for the chats, more often than not, people who live by themselves, maybe elderly people. And it was such an honour to be able to go and trade and just be there, and to, meet people and have the chats. It was quite poignant but uplifting at the same time,
So you got to become the shopkeeper eventually.
I did.
Yeah. That's kind of like live market research as well, is it?
Oh yeah, it's invaluable. You can basically do trials. Sorry, that sounds awful. Like use your customers as guinea pigs. I don't mean that. But what I mean is you can get people to try or smell certain products there and then, and see their reactions firsthand, and figure out, or at least get a feel for if this product is a goer or not before you invest in all the packaging and everything around it. You get their reaction, you get that smile or that ooh or that ah firsthand. You're there for that moment, which is, like I say, it's invaluable.
It's amazing.
It is.
And I presume even price points and stuff like that, you get a sense of that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. You see what sells best, or if people are double questioning themselves if they should be spending that amount on that particular product or whatever. So you learn an awful lot by that customer interface. I mean, I sell through shops as well, and I sell online, but there's nothing like dealing with customers firsthand. Sure, there isn't really.
Yeah. And the decision to, I'm not doing cheese anymore and I'm going to make my own products, where in the name of God did that come from?
Well, now, I didn't give up the day job. So basically, my partner at the time and I kind of shared the cheese business. So we took it in turns to do the markets, and whoever wasn't doing the cheese market was at home minding the family. So we still kept up the cheese stall. But I guess, when the kids started going to school and that, I'd maybe a little bit more time to be experimenting. And I started making Little Red, mainly for myself originally, because I like to know what goes into things, and I like the more natural, the better.
Was this the engineer coming out in you? That kind of training a little bit, is it?
Well, I would have definitely tapped into that.
Yeah.
But also, I love it. I still love experimenting. That's one of the joys of my job as well. And I have so many ideas. It's just getting the time to bring them out. But also just, less nasties, less chemicals. The cleaner the product, the better. So I suppose that was one of the main incentives to start making skincare originally. And then, like that, I started selling a few bits and pieces of it off the cheese stall, off a corner of the cheese stall. So that market research was invaluable, because then I decided, okay, there's a market here for this. And so I went about getting Little Red branded, and then it just kind of grew organically from there.
Literally.
Literally. I mean, I was using mainly organic ingredients anyway before I ever went about getting organic certification. And then Little Red became strong enough in its own right to have its own stall. So then we would, my ex-partner would have done the cheese at different markets to the markets I was going to with Little Red. So there was the skincare van and there was the cheese van, and I think it probably came up trumps.
Yeah.
I still love cheese, and I would still happily sell cheese. I had some great times being a cheesemonger, but I also love what I do now. And whilst I never made cheese, apart from accidentally maybe in the kitchen at home, I do make most of what I sell. And I absolutely love it. Yeah.
So how does your time go? How much is retailing and how much is making?
So in the summer months, because I roll with the season, the holiday season down here. So for example, Schull Market is a seasonal one. It just runs from Easter through to September. I do Skibbereen Market from about the 1st of February through to Christmas. I have done other markets, the likes of Bantry, but I'm just quite busy. This year, for example, they're the only 2 markets I will do. But so that's 2 days a week for the busy months. And then I also supply some shops and I sell online. Every week is different, to be honest. It just depends on what needs to be made. It depends on what my children need. My middle child is currently doing the Leaving Cert, so I want to be more available for him, basically. But meanwhile, I'm still getting Little Red done in between, So it just depends on the week and also the time of year. Like I try and stockpile a lot in January, for example, because the season rolls around quickly. Or I might try, new products also in the quieter months. Yeah, it just very much depends. Yeah, on what's needed. And some weeks I'll do more work on the computer. I haven't been great on social media recently because I switched off notifications, and it's actually really nice. But I also know it's probably a necessary evil for most businesses. But I'm enjoying a little bit of a hiatus from social media, because you end up being jack of all trades. It's Little Red is still quite a small business. It might grow again in time, but right now, for this stage in my life, it's suiting me keeping it small.
That's important, isn't it? Because I think there's a thing in business, when you have one stall, well, we need to get a second one. Or if you one shop, we'll do a second one. If you one office, let's open another office and let's double the sales, or let's go into another country. And it's just volume. And the experience is the same. You're making and you're selling. But now you've just added volume. Now, if you're driven by money and profit and all that kind of stuff, and the economies suit whatever you're doing, well, that's fine. But a lot of the time, you're just burning yourself. If you're not careful, you're squeezing the living daylights out of your own experience, and those bits and bobs that are enjoyable suddenly may not be anymore. So scale really isn't necessary. You need to make a decision for yourself, and I think I really love what you're saying about that it suits you now.
Like I have actually downsized. I used to have someone else working with me, and I used to do some of the bigger shows like the RDS, Gifted at Christmas time, and Bloom in the summertime. And they were great for exposure and advertising. They're very expensive to do. There's a lot of work around getting there, even down to who's minding the kids, you know. So once COVID hit, I just didn't do them. I don't think they ran for a year or two, did they? Probably, well, I guess not that first year anyway. And you know what? I just decided I didn't need them anymore. It didn't necessarily translate into bigger bucks, Like I say again, we're so blessed with the markets down here, and they're local, and I can still maybe drop my kids different places in the evenings after markets, or still be home for dinner and that kind of thing. So they're lifestyle choices that, when you get them right, you know it, and they just sit well with you. And upscaling doesn't always mean more profit.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Not at all. I've found oftentimes downscaling has resulted in being better off, not just mentally and physically, but sometimes financially as well, because obviously if you upscale, you have to pay wages and all of that. And I love being able to provide employment, but you have to find the balance for yourself, It's one of the trickiest things to do in life these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
But all we can do is try and hit that note. I mean, I'd be open to upscaling again in the next couple of years.
And I guess in a way, if it suits.
If it suits, absolutely.
That's a pretty good criteria, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, people have also said to me, suggested would I go on Dragon's Den and stuff, but I also like ownership of my business, and I like doing things my way.
You're so right. Like, why would you want to take someone's money then to scale if there's no reason to, and if you're not going to get anything out of that for yourself?
And you're kind of selling part of your soul as well, right? Because you become answerable to someone else who isn't the founder of your, it's your business, it's your baby. But that's just me. That's just my take. That's just they're just some of the decisions I've made, and they sit well with me. It's not the same for everybody, but it just boils down to being happy with that. And
you could imagine in the blink of an eye, the products could be retailing in, I don't know, the big supermarkets, and suddenly there's no Schull market on a Sunday anymore. And they're the same products, I guess. But it's a totally different business and a totally different life for you if that's how it turns out. So, so we need to be careful with this thing called business, don't we? And where it can take you. And
for sure. And how we design our lives and our business and our life, ultimately then our lives. Yeah, it's about designing your life, I guess.
That's sounds like a really good idea.
And as you say, life just goes by in a flash, and we're here for a good time as well, not a long time.
And I suspect that's why when I pop over to you at your stall at Schull Market, when you're sitting on your stool and you're happy and you're beaming, and I don't think there was a lie in that. I think that's who you are, because that's how you're feeling.
Yeah, it's a happy place for me. Yeah, I do love my job. Yeah, obviously some days more than others, but overall I love my job, and I just feel so blessed that it's worked out, and I'm not going to be declaring myself a millionaire tomorrow by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes it can be financially challenging, but really at the end of the day, yeah, it's how happy your life is as a result, and yeah.
Is seaweed a key ingredient? Did I do my little bit of research and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've no idea how this might work, but yeah. I'd ask the question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of my signature ingredients. So we used to get it as treats going to the beach when we were kids, off up to the Hinch, and you get a bag of seagrass, we used to call it, brown paper bag, and sit on the prom and have that as a treat, that and periwinkles. But seaweed has massive benefits for the skin, and I just love how it can be used in foods and topically as a skincare ingredient. And as an island nation, we probably don't use it half enough. It's getting a lot more press and a lot more popular, but I just love the benefits of it.
Do you buy it or do you gather it?
So I do both, but where I lived before, I was further inland, so about an hour's drive from the sea in any direction. So I've always gotten my seaweed. I've always bought it from a family-run business in County Clare, and they have organic certification and they harvest it sustainably. And I buy it dried, so I just rehydrate as much as I need at a time, so there's less waste. Now I harvest my own seaweed since I moved down here for my own purposes,
But won't be short around here.
No, certainly not. But yeah, I also like keeping that Clare connection going as well,
What are your best sellers?
My best sellers? Oh goodness. It kind of depends on the day. The ruby serum is a big seller. Dee bought one, didn't she?
Probably.
Yeah, kind of everything sells, and sometimes things sell in waves more so than others. So lip balms always sell. There are face creams, cleansers, hand creams, but they all sell. The hand cream was one of my first products that I made, and that is still a hero product. But the lip balms sell. Kind of everything I make sells, really, which is lovely. Yeah, no, it's nice.
Has the business surprised you?
Has it surprised me? In what way?
Yeah, obviously you try something and something works and something doesn't work. Is there anything that surprised you about it that has really worked? Oh my God, I never realised that was going to happen.
Do you know what has surprised me? Because for a number of years there, I suppose about 9 or 10 years, we had the cheese stall running and the little red stall running. And me moving down here was a big risk because I didn't know if Little Red was enough to sustain me and the kids. And it actually is. Cheese stall hasn't been operational now for 1.5 years. And I've been able to keep the show on the road. And that's a massive relief. That was a bit of a surprise, I have to be honest in saying that. So yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I must be doing something right, I guess.
Of course you are. The products are obviously good, but the branding is lovely. There's something nice. Where did the name come from?
I was brainstorming with the graphic designer I had doing the first bout of branding. It was different. It looked different to the way it does now. I really like the branding now as well. And so I used to sell Gabine cheese. That was, I sold Gabine and Gabine products from the get-go, from once I started the cheese stall. And I remember phoning up Jana Ferguson and saying, I was really shy, I was really nervous, and telling her what my plans were, with the cheese stall. And she said, I've been waiting for somebody like you. And it was so sweet. Yeah, so it's lovely to still call them friends. The lads in the dairy and also in the meat packers with Fingal salamis, they used to send a consignment to me every Friday in Bantry, because that's where I traded on Fridays. Before they had their own stall, they started up their stall I think 2 years after me. Anyway, so they used to send boxes over to me, and one of the lads there got creative with the name and started to call me Little Red, and there'd be little messages of, nice greetings and stuff. So I was brainstorming with my original graphic designer, and I just threw Little Red out there, and she, it reiterated it, and we thought that could stick, and
it's lovely.
Thanks.
So thanks to the guy from Gubeen who... You're his Little Red.
Exactly, yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so it kind of goes full circle, it's all market related.
And while we are talking about things going full circle, you're talking about that experience in the shops and some of the supermarkets stocking those kind of artisan type products. Mm-hmm. They obviously spotted this is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And in a way, people believe your shop is more credible and authentic if you stock those products. So in a way, the artisan cheeses or the craft beers or the nice breads, they kind of sprinkle a bit of magic artisan dust on everything else. So it does change the personality of the store.
Yeah.
But what you don't have, and you're getting less of, and I think this is really terrible. I went to the Centra in Schull, mm-hmm. and they've got the bloody self-service kiosks or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you get them in the little petrol stations as well. Of course, it's very efficient and all that kind of thing. In a way, if you think about the small communities down here, and I'm sure someone has figured out that this is all so efficient and everything, my God Almighty, to not be able to go to the till and have the bit of chit-chat with the guy or the girl behind the counter, them to you and you to them. Mm-hmm. And as you were saying, like during COVID, some of those elderly people, maybe they came over, they got their litre of milk and their loaf of bread, and they're scanning that through a machine now and not talking to the person. Mm. And my God Almighty, what a gift to have a really bright, cheery person manning the till, and okay, they're just clocking through items. That's not the skill. The skill is the chit-chat with the person and that atmosphere that you create. And then the magic of the market. It's like, well, what are we at with our retailers if we honestly think that's a solution?
Yeah, that's progress, in inverted commas.
Oh my God, it's just...
I was so sad when I saw it.
Yeah.
I'll go out of my way. I'll stand for as long as I can to wait in line to meet a human at the till. I don't like it either. I think it's sad.
Yeah. And for professional career retailers, I know in their hearts that they've had people in their team who just light up a room when they're at the till to banter with whoever's coming through. Now, maybe they can't find those people anymore. I'm not sure. But I hope to God that unique skill that those people have, I hope it continues to be valued. Yeah. And that it does have an opportunity to express itself for anyone who wants to have a little bit of a chit-chat. And of course you're purchasing. Maybe you go to that shop deliberately because Mary or John, they're lovely and you just want the few minutes chatting with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a loss. God Almighty.
I know.
Have we gone bonkers?
Yeah, you'd wonder, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we just utterly lost our minds? I don't know.
Yeah, that human connection, it's underrated.
Yeah.
I just hope we don't go too far with this, that then it's too late. Yeah, we just have to keep it going. I suppose keep the human connection going as much as possible, even if it means, standing in line for or maybe refusing to use the self-service tills. Yeah. We're entitled to do that, aren't we? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, I'm not criticizing those people, but as a user, as a shop goer, I just prefer dealing with a human than a robot or a machine. But let's see where this 21st century takes us.
Yeah, and that's why the markets are just magical. That's why they're magical, and that's why you will deliberately go there and deliberately have the chat with Fiona and whoever else is in there selling their wares.
And fellow customers then as well.
Totally.
It's such a lovely social gathering, isn't it?
Oh my God. And it's that dynamic between everyone that creates that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to rocking in, taking a product from the shelf and going to your little machine where you can scan it for yourself and go out and, it's all been very efficient. You can come and go without talking to anyone.
Yeah.
But that's not good either. That's absolutely not good. So, what's happiness to you?
Happiness. What's happiness? Happiness, a lot of the time, is going for a walk in nature, jumping in the sea, eating nice food, spending time with loved ones. It's the simple pleasures. I do experience a lot of happiness in my job. I'm so lucky. I consider myself really lucky. You know, it might just be labeling jars of hand creams or face creams or lip balms. And I just get into a meditative kind of a state, but that feels good. It's very grounding. Happiness usually stems from the simplest things in life, for me, to be perfectly honest. Eating good food, going to nice gigs. We're so spoiled down here. There's so much on, so much happening all the time, even in the winter time. I shouldn't really broadcast this too loudly, should I?
The place might get too crowded.
Yeah, it's life's simple pleasures, really. I do spend a lot of time in nature. I love peace and quiet. I love just the great outdoors and the sea and simple things.
You do get a sense down here that a lot of people who live here have it figured out.
Yeah.
They've actually cracked the code and they go, yeah, okay. A bit like what you're saying, we'll opt for the simpler life. I was chatting to a guy, and I think he's just working in one of the local cafes / restaurants in Bantry.
Yeah.
And it's not a spring chicken, but no, not too old either, but he just struck me as being so happy.
I think I know the guy you mean.
I'll ask you after. and this guy has worked and lived around the world and all that kind of stuff, and happy serving coffees and lunches or whatever in Bantry.
Yeah.
And how bad?
How bad indeed.
Cracking the code of life.
Yeah. So where else would you be?
Yeah.
I don't even go to the city hardly at all anymore unless I really, 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 really have to.
The one thing I'm wary a little bit about it is that it is so lovely and laid back and all that kind of thing, and that when you're in business, you don't want to lose your edge either, or that competitive edge, and you don't want to lose the power of observation. We were in London there a week or two ago, and you get the buzz of the city, you're seeing different things, and it kind of fires you and it gives you energy and ideas and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's the one thing you need to guard yourself against.
Right.
And maybe you do, or maybe you don't. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is a good point. Even just, for inspiration and just keeping you on your toes, and that distance element, pulling yourself out of your comfort zone.
Burke has just made an appearance. Okay, what do you want? Do you want to go to the door for a second? Come on.
The real boss.
Oh my God almighty. Yeah, but it is good to just get yourself fired up as well, isn't it? With different things. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, and a change is as good as a rest. And I probably should try and remove myself from my comfort zone a bit more often. Yeah, no, it is. And just to see what's happening in the bigger picture, not just in this beautiful corner of the world.
Yeah, but you've had a lot of changes as well recently, so maybe it's good to have a nice stable patch
Grounding.
as well.
Yeah,
well, all the things are kind of moving because you've been moving house and all that kind of stuff as well. So that's probably good for you. In terms of winning, the winning part, the winning happy, do you have that bit of competitive edge? What gives you that yes, that feeling?
Well, even just living here, knowing that I'm putting down roots here and enjoying such a great quality of life, and it doesn't mean I'm always out, going out to gigs, whatever, but I can dip in and out when I want to. Just, being able to design my life around the things that I really love doing, and, being so close to the sea and, being in such a stunningly beautiful place. Sorry, I keep saying how beautiful it is, but it means an awful lot. And being around like-minded people, because like you say, most people who live here have cracked the code. So I guess we have a lot in common, and there are a lot of creatives and just like-minded people living here who see things from a higher perspective, maybe. Just being able to put down roots. Like, I recently bought a place and it requires some work, and work is going to be starting soon, but in the last couple of months I've literally been putting down roots. I've been going over there every so often and planting fruit trees and flowers and whatnot, and there's no greater joy than doing that, in a place that you can call yours and come and go as you please. So that for me is winning, and also knowing that my children have a great quality of life here. My daughter has just finished transition year, and she was sailing throughout the, every Tuesday or whatever, and then on more summer, warmer days, after school, she'll often stay in town and just walk along the harbour and go for a swim with her friends. That for me is winning,
Yeah. It's cracking the code for them as well. That doesn't sound like a bad life at all for a teenager.
Yeah, no, for sure. And interestingly, so where we lived before, we were a lot closer to the city, and we would go in and out of the city a lot more often. And so with the city comes the bigger shops and the brands and all that. But I have to say, they love charity shopping now, not that we didn't have charity shops where we lived before, but there's less of a choice, or you have to go further maybe to get more of a selection. But simple things like that, and they're so much better for the planet and everything as well, just reusing and recycling, and all those little things for me make up win-win.
Yeah. Well done. So my one last question for you. The biggest choice you made along the way, what was it?
Up to this point in my life?
Yeah.
The biggest one along the way. I suppose I've made a few big ones. So, before I was 18, maybe, going abroad to work, spending my summers in Germany, and then deciding to take a year out, leaving engineering and going out on my own as a market trader. That was definitely pivotal. Then founding Little Red. And then I suppose the most recent one has been a really big one. And it's because my partner and I were separated before I moved down here, and our house was for sale, our house back in Macroom, and it hadn't sold. But I realised that nobody in the family was really benefiting from us staying together. I tried to hold out until such point as the house was sold, but I then just saw the window of opportunity to move and establish ourselves, down here. So I was very lucky that the kids were accepted into Schull Community College before, at the start of the summer. This was 3 years ago. And then a friend of mine owns the house that we moved into and rented. We're still there until such time as we move to our own house. So that was big because there was huge risk involved. It was a very hard time and emotional time for all of us. But I just thought nothing is worth us all being miserable. And there's a way for us to be happier. Now, we didn't wake up the morning after the first night we spent here and go, yay, life is a bed of roses.
It's all solved.
Yeah, it took some time. There was definitely settling in period, and it was hard for the children, moving them away from their dad and uprooting them from their secondary schools. They were all in secondary school at that point. So yeah, it wasn't easy for any of us, but I guess they had their trust in me, and I guess we've just made it work. So that's probably been the biggest move, really.
And tell me, how do you approach big decisions?
There comes a point where change is necessary, and then you're faced with the decision: do I want to stay in this unhappy situation, or do I that leap of faith and go for it and risk everything? I suppose I have gone for it a few times in my life.
It sounds like you have.
And you know what? Any of those big crossroads that I've come to and that I have gone in, taken that leap of faith, I've never looked back, I have to say.
Your pros and cons, are you the piece of paper out with the columns and you're weighing up the different things with these, would you be very logical about some of that stuff, or are you all gut?
A lot of it is gut.
Yeah.
And it just boils down to happiness. Basically, it's very much in keeping with your podcast, I think, because there's so many unknowns. You can't know when you're at those types of crossroads. Sure, you can't. That's what keeps us from changing so often in our lives, because it's unknown what lies ahead, and it's scary. It's really scary. But I guess, yeah, if you can trust and listen to your gut, things went smoothly in that the house that I'm renting, that became available at the start of the school term, things rolled. I was lucky, and that was a sign in itself. Had there been more resistance from the universe, if you like, you could interpret that as a sign, like, oh, maybe not now, or maybe not this, or maybe
show me a sign.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I think you need to look for them, don't you?
Yeah, and be open to them.
Yeah,
be open to them and trust the universe, without meaning to sound too hippy-dippy, but also I think we've maybe been conditioned to not trusting our inner voice and our gut instinct. It's a very, very powerful tool, and if you ask yourself a question, how does my body feel when I think about, making this move or that move? And your body will often let you know. And there are signs, if you're open to listening to them, seeing them, hearing them, there are signs, but trust your gut. And we're also much stronger and braver than we've been taught to believe, I think. We've been likened to a grain of sand in the big, bad world, but we all play a part, and however meager, in inverted commas, you see your existence or your life, I think it's much bigger than that. I think we all can just influence each other and have ripple effects much further afield than we're led to believe. But yeah, just have the courage of your own convictions.
Bert agrees with you. Don't you, Bert?
I think he's saying time.
Well, maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. Yeah. I was thinking as you were chatting, the career choices, and you're saying psychology was possibly one of the ones that you were thinking at the beginning. I think you would have done very well as a psychologist.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the next career choice. I have a career change.
Little red psychology. Hey!
There you go.
Fiona, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You're such a lovely guest.
Thanks so much, Greg, for having me.
And Bert, we have to thank him as well.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Bert.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks a million, Greg.
Thank you for listening to the Win Happy podcast, which has been brought to you by Fusion Communications. If you'd like to get in touch, feel free to send me an email at greg@fusion.ie. So until next time, take it easy.